Welcome back to the Start, Build and Grow podcast with Archie MacRae, owner of Nightingweb. This is a show where we talk with real business owners and creators here in the north of Scotland about what it actually takes to build something from nothing. Today I'm joined by Ailsa from B is for Brand, a branding and marketing consultancy based here in Moray. Ailsa's worked with businesses across the country from London to Lossiemouth, helping them understand what branding really means beyond just a logo. We'll talk about her move from corporate London to the north of Scotland, what she's learned from helping businesses define who they are, and how she's managed to build a personal brand that actually gets attention. Ailsa, it's great to have you on the
Hi
show.
Archie, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Shall we get straight in?
Let's do it.
So, I like to start simple. You've got a big title, President of the Association of Scottish Businesswomen, but where did it all begin for you? What actually got you into branding and now becoming president of the Scottish Association of Businesswomen?
Well, thanks for starting there. That's probably a good place to tell the story, I suppose, of how I came to even be a business owner long before I was president of the Association of Scottish Businesswomen. That was by no means the first title that I had. It's been a bit of a journey. In fact, I've got a little visual prop here today. Head Fairy was the first title that I ever wore once I became an independent business owner. And when I first moved up to Lossiemouth, I was looking for work and I had 2 small children and I couldn't figure out how to do it. I couldn't figure out how I could balance everything. And the idea occurred to me that I perhaps should start my own business. And I looked around, and on the military patch where I was living, lots of women had a little side hustle. In fact, some of them had 2 or 3 side hustles. And I wondered about whether I could do that as well. So as it happened, a neighbour was running a cleaning business. She was doing military march outs. And I ended up having a conversation with her because she said she was going to jack it in. She said she was finishing with the cleaning business because she had another side hustle as a beauty therapist, and she said she preferred that work. And one night I had a bottle of wine with her, and that turned into a business. And 5 years later, I was still running Lossiemouth Cleaning Fairies. So yeah.
So how did you go from there to becoming president of the Association of Businesswomen?
It was a very long journey over about 7 years. At the time when I had Cleaning Fairies, I didn't do any networking at all because I was so busy with the business. I literally started that business with her and it never stopped. It was like a train. I just, it was on the tracks and it was going and the phones were ringing. I was doing no marketing, no advertising. I did have a good brand, so obviously that attracted attention, but I didn't have to spend any money on marketing, advertising, recruitment, anything like that. My books were always full. I always had a waiting list, so I had no time to do anything like networking. Then 5 years later, I decided to stop that business. I actually, we'll maybe talk about this later, but I sold the brand.
The cleaning business.
The cleaning business, yeah. And I already had B is for Brand as a side hustle. There's a little story in there as well. But I decided that that was going to be my main thing. And that's the moment when I first took the step out the door to go networking. A friend persuaded me to attend Moray Businesswomen. And I very tentatively and nervously went along to the first meeting, not sure it was for me. And to be honest, even after the first couple of meetings, I wasn't sure I was enjoying it. I didn't really understand how to make it work as a business tool. I also joined Moray Chamber around about that time. And there's a brand building story there that maybe we should go into that then took me into networking as a really key tool. So yeah, there's a couple of little stories just there around. Yeah,
definitely. So networking has obviously been a big thing for you. We'll get into that a bit later on when we talk about acquiring clients and that sort of stuff. But you spent time in London before moving up in Moray. Is that correct?
I did.
What made you trade the city life for the north?
I was forced here, kicking and screaming. I did not want to move back to Scotland. I was very happy in my London life. I had a great life. I had clients all over Europe. I was jumping on a plane every couple of weeks, and I was going all over the UK, visiting my clients. It was a really fancy office in London. I was, living my corporate best life. And one day my husband came home and said he'd been offered a job as an instructor. He was a helicopter pilot, and he'd been offered a job as an instructor with the RAF in Shropshire.
Right.
And that was the first moment where I realised that, and nobody warns you of this, but when you fall in love with someone in the RAF, at some point that's going to turn you into a 1950s housewife. And you have a choice. You either have to go with your marriage or your career, and you can't always have both. It's getting better now because a lot of employers will be flexible and you can work from home and remotely. But back in those days, I mean, we're talking quite a long time ago now, Archie.
Before my time.
Yeah, before your time. It wasn't possible.
Yeah.
It wasn't possible to work remotely. So that was it. I was pulled out of my fancy London job, and I'd been a branding consultant in London for about a year, and I was so pleased to have reached the level of consultant. And I was just gaining experience and learning from mentors and really enjoying working with big blue chip clients, like names you would have heard of, like Lexus, Mitsubishi, NFU Mutual, a lot of educational institutions. I was really enjoying my time, and then I just wasn't able to do it anymore. I had to move with my husband.
Yeah. So do you think that's another reason why you do what you do? Because you can do it remotely, the majority of it?
The remote element might be part of it, but I think really what's driving me is I need to get back to where I was and to prove to myself that I am at that level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you just mentioned a minute ago about obviously running the cleaning business, which you've got the Mug for Us Head Fairy, and you sold it. So what did that experience teach you that you've carried into now your branding business?
Yeah. So I didn't actually sell the business.
Okay.
I sold the brand.
Right.
And this is something I would say to every business owner. This is why I talk about build your brand, grow your business, because they are two separate things. And actually, if you do both, then you create more value. So you can have a business that doesn't really have a brand, and you can have a brand that's really well known that masks that your business isn't actually as big. And when you build your brand in the right way, that has a value all of its own. So my cleaning business was getting quite big, and I came to a moment where I needed to make a decision about how much I was going to invest in moving it forward. Was I really ready to, get into millions of pounds turnover and have fleets of vehicles and a huge team? I had 16 staff at that point, and so it had gotten to quite a size. And I realised that my passion wasn't really in running a cleaning business, and it was hard. And someone handed their notice in who was quite a key person, and I was so proud of them because they'd started with me as someone who was unemployed, who'd been out of work for a while, who'd lost self-confidence. And then through working with cleaning fairies, they built themselves up. They'd become more confident, they'd gained skills, and they'd actually applied for a different kind of job. And let's face it, nobody really wants to be a cleaner for their whole life.
Of course.
And so I was fully on board with that. I wanted the ladies that worked with me to go on a journey to discover themselves, to improve their skills so that they could go on to things that they enjoyed more or that they felt gave them more purpose. And it was at the purpose of my business was to help people, not just women, because I did actually have men working for me as well, help people to find that confidence and to get that start that they needed to get back into work, or if they'd faced challenges, to move forward. So anyway, that's why I stopped, because this key person left and I felt I probably didn't have the passion I needed to recruit again, to find that right person and to move forward. So I decided to close the business, and I helped some of the women who were working for me to start their own businesses. In fact, 2 or 3 of them are still going now. And so they went on their own journey. I helped the other ladies who were left to decide what they were going to do next. And then I wound the business down. And then someone came to my door and offered me money for the brand. They said, I hear you're closing the business. What are you doing with the brand? And I said, well, it's ready to go if you want to buy it. And so they offered me thousands of pounds just for the brand. And so I sold the brand and stepped into what I was doing next, which was B is for Brand. B is for Brand was already a little side hustle at the time. So I had started having clients on the side. And what I discovered, just to answer your question properly, what I discovered was that having a cleaning business for 5 years, a really kind of functional business that involved me wearing all the hats, health and safety, HR, recruitment, standards, all this kind of thing, it made me a much better branding consultant, because I'd walked the walk. I'd been in the shoes of a busy business owner who has so many priorities.
Over branding, for example.
That's right, yeah. And a lot of people who work in branding and marketing have only ever done that. They've never run another type of business.
Yeah.
So I suddenly felt like I had this newfound understanding of the customer and their journey and what they had to grapple with. And I realised that the problem with trying to get people to focus on building a brand was it's too complicated. It's overwhelming, and there's too much to do. So my whole focus with B's for Brand is to simplify that. That's why I talk about the ABCs of branding. So it's like primary school version of branding. Achieve brand clarity. Let's keep it simple. Let's get that clarity.
Yeah. I like it. So for the people listening to the podcast at home that maybe don't quite understand the difference between selling a business and selling a brand, how would you explain what selling a brand would be?
Yeah. So as far as the accountant was concerned and the HMRC, the business just closed. So we finished the business, we did the company accounts and everything was wound down. I ended all the contracts and so the business was put to bed. So no customers were transferred with the business, no money changed hands, no staff changed hands. That all stopped. And what was left was the brand package. And so this is one of my mantras is write it down. Write everything down, because that's your assets. That knowledge that's in your head, that tacit knowledge that you know how to run the business, you know the way that you do things, you know what you want the customer experience to be. If you write all that down, you can give it to someone else. So everything in my business was really well documented and really well branded. And I followed my own framework that we'll talk about a bit later probably around strategy, image and experience. And so I had a really clear brand strategy that laid out exactly what the brand was, what lay at the heart of it, what the key messages were, the story, all that kind of thing, how it should look, the image of it, and really tight guidelines around that. And then also, very crucially with a business like a cleaning business, the brand experience, not just for customers, but for staff as well. And then all the SOPs were written down, the way that we did things, all the checklists. So there was a load of brand assets. There were a load of business assets that went with that, all as one big manual. And and that's what was bought from me. And they bought the name Lossiemouth Cleaning Fairies, but actually they didn't really either, because they also renamed it to Murray Cleaning Fairies. and they bought the brand identity, the brand image, but also they didn't really, because one of the two people that bought the business was a graphic designer, and so he redesigned a lot of things as well. and they bought me as a brand ambassador as well. We agreed a year's consultancy where I endorsed the brand. I publicly made statements in support of their business. And what that did was attract attention of previous customers. And so they got up and running really super quickly. staff that worked for me went and worked for them. Customers that were happy customers knocked at their door. And so within a really short space of time, they had a thriving business.
I think it's really interesting because I'm sure some people listening to this podcast might think selling a brand is just simply sending someone your logo on Canva or something.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you've sold the whole infrastructure behind the business.
That's
you know,
right.
like the systems, the way you operate things, your obviously your SOPs and stuff. It's very interesting. If we look at B is for Brand, when you started it, did you already know that it would work, or were you taking a bit of a gamble? I know you said it started sort of as a side hustle, so I guess you could cover that now.
I'll tell you the story of how it started, actually. So when I was cleaning, someone came to my door one day and said, could you help my husband? He's got a brand, he's got a business in Lossiemouth. In fact, I will name the business later, but could you help them? They've got a few questions around brand. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll just go and have a cup of coffee with them. And that cup of coffee turned into a few cups of coffee. And they said, this is really interesting. We didn't know this stuff before. You've really helped us. We're feeling really clear now about where to go next. Could you run a workshop for our staff? And I went, wait a minute. If I'm going to run a workshop, maybe that's a paid job. Maybe you'll have to charge some money for that. Yeah. And they said, yeah, absolutely. We'll be happy to pay for that. So I ran a workshop for the staff. And then I started working quite regularly with this business. Probably once a month I would pop in on a consultancy basis. And they were talking to me about the potential of working with them, maybe part-time or becoming their marketing manager or something. But I didn't want to because I was running Cleaning Fairies and I was fully into Cleaning Fairies at that time. Yeah. And so I suggested to them that what they needed was to get an agency to help them. And so my offer was that I would help them recruit the agency. And this is how B is for Brand came about, because I suddenly realised it was the week before the recruitment interviews. So we'd put out tenders. We had agencies from Aberdeen, Glasgow, Edinburgh, and locally had applied for the job of their agency. And I thought, I can't really sit here on the other side of the table interviewing these agencies from big cities as Ailsa the Cleaning Fairy. Probably need to explain my role as a branding consultant and give myself some credibility. So over the weekend, I sat down with my husband and took myself through my own process, using him as a sounding board. And that's where the name B is for Brand just popped out of my head. And it started with me thinking, well, I want it to be simple, like ABC, just really primary school. And what would ABC be for? And A is for Ailsa and B is for Brand. And I went, whoa, that's the name, B is for Brand. And so I kind of built it from there. And A isn't for Ailsa anymore. A is for Achieve. Achieve Brand Clarity became my ABCs. Eventually, that is my slogan. So B is for Brand, Achieve Brand Clarity. I also talk about build your brand, grow your business. These are key lines that I repeat again and again because I'm a big fan of repetition. That is a great way to build a strong brand, is to have key lines that will resonate with the problems you're trying to solve for people, and just repeat them everywhere until people learn them. Anyway, so that's how the name came about. And then I interviewed these agencies, and at the end of that process, the business in question said, and would you come and work for us? But I didn't go and work for them, but I did carry on working with them. And then Beats for Brand became a bit of a more serious side hustle. And it was Windswept Brewing that was the company that I was working with.
You're not based in Lossiemouth?
They actually closed.
They closed?
Yeah, right. Just a year or 18 months ago, which was a really sad moment. Lockdown was really tough for the drinks industry, especially micro breweries, and people's drinking habits changed. They didn't go to the pub as much, and it became really tough for really small brands. But yeah, for 12 years, I worked with them pretty closely, building the brand. They were a pretty well-known local brand and had a big loyal following. And Nigel and Al, who were running it, kept saying to me, if you can do this, why are you running a cleaning business? and the actual answer to that was imposter syndrome. I didn't feel that I was really credible. I didn't feel I'd done long enough as a branding consultant in London. I was worried that I would be caught out, that I didn't know all the answers. And as I've grown older, I've realised that you never know all the answers. And to become wise is to know that you don't actually know very much about what there is to know in the world. So I've stopped worrying about that. And I usually do know the answer when someone asks me a brand-related question. So,
of course, as you should, being a branding consultant. Still on the topic of branding, most people think of branding as just colours and logos. I'm sure you hear that all the time. How do you explain what it actually is to clients, to prospects?
Yeah. So where I start with that when I'm explaining to people what brand actually is, or getting them to think more deeply about that, is at the end of the day, all your brand really is what stays in other people's minds about your business. So just to linger on that, your brand is what stays in other people's minds about your business. So you're not in control of that. So the job is to try and get control of that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way to do it is to be intentional. It's to know what it is that you want people to remember about your business. And in my workshops, I take people through, what kinds of things get remembered and how would they get remembered and what do you have to do to help people remember things about your business and decide what are those things, what are the useful things for people to remember. And then once you've got clear on that and kind of, people don't remember very much, by the way, and they're also not paying attention most of the time. So you don't get many bites of the cherry. People maybe remember 2 or 3 things about your business. So you have to really nail what you want those things to be. And then once you've got clarity on that, then thinking about building the brand, I use a framework that I've referred to already: strategy, image, experience. So everything that you do with your brand can go into one of those 3. They're not silos, they're kind of labels, I suppose, because some things fall under more than one label. So you've got your strategy, which is really what the business stands for and how you explain that and how you add colour and flavour to that with your brand story, that kind of thing. And then you've got the brand image, but the image isn't just the visual stuff. It's also the words. So image and reputation are kind of interchangeable words. So all the words that come out for your business, as well as I talk about words and pictures. So words and pictures, all the words, all the pictures, so all the visual stuff and all the stuff that gets said about your business. And by the way, not just the stuff that you put out there, but what everybody else says as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
So your words and pictures and everybody else's words and pictures, all those Google reviews, what someone says to their friend in the pub, that's part of your business image, right? And then the final one, experience. So strategy, image, experience. Then you need to try and use your strategy to intentionally create an experience for your customers, but not just your customers, your staff as well, if you have staff. And a lot of small businesses don't have staff, of course, but there are other stakeholders, even your mum, and, people who are supporting you. And actually think about not customers as well, because I don't know about you, but I talk about lots of businesses that I've never bought anything from.
Yeah.
So think about them too. What kind of experience do you want people to have who know about you? Yeah. Even if they never become a customer, surely you still want them to know your key messages so that they can tell people about you.
Of course.
And then you've got an army of brand ambassadors, whether they become customers or not. So,
yeah, whether or not they become customers. I've actually had a few people who are not, they've never became clients. I've never even spoken to them. And, I've received a client and I've said to them, where did you hear about us? And they're like, oh, it was from so-and-so.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've never worked with them. I don't even know who that is. And they're like, oh, well, they were shouting about you, raving about you. So that is, that comes back to branding, which is certainly powerful.
Yeah.
Ailsa, you do a lot of in-person workshops here in Murray. What's the biggest sort of mindset mistake that you're seeing small businesses make when it comes to their branding?
Oh gosh, the biggest mindset mistake. Yeah. Well, I guess I think I can do it myself. is the
Yeah.
is the big one. And DIY branding is a huge no as far as I'm concerned. Now, I don't mean don't use Canva. You can never use Canva for anything, because in this day and age we all have to create a lot of
Canva's
content.
great.
Canva's great because you can use rules, but you've got to know what your brand rules are. Don't use Canva to make your logo, though, because you will come unstuck eventually if you do that. So people who start in a business often start with a small budget or no budget at all. And so they don't feel that they can invest in proper graphic design. This is the biggest mistake that I see. This is the money that is worth spending. You must find some money to work with a proper graphic designer and a proper website designer in the beginning, so that you don't have to do it again really quickly.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Get it right from the start, and then you can build on that, and then you keep building, you keep the momentum, and you don't have to keep changing. There's lots of ways to get your hands on a small pot of money. You know, I would go and see Business Gateway. I would maybe try and get on one of their courses. Sometimes they can direct you towards funding pots. I've just actually been on a course with Women's Enterprise Scotland in my role as the president of the Association of Scottish Businesswomen. I decided that I should know more about how funding and grants work in Scotland. And there are lots of ways that you can get a startup loan or an investor or even a grant that you don't have to pay back. So be serious about building your brand right from the outset. And that is a mistake that I often see. People have just knocked it up on Canva.
Yeah.
Without a strategy as well.
There's so many logos that I see out there that they all just look the same. Because it's a generic Canva template. And it's just,
Yeah.
So invest in a graphic designer for your branding and obviously a web designer for your website.
Yeah, and obviously I would say before that you need your strategy so that you write a great brief for those people, because that's what your strategy will enable you to do. Have real clarity on all the questions that the graphic designer or the web designer are going to ask you, and you'll be able to go, here are my answers to your questions, and then you have alignment, you know, you have consistency, which is one of the most important things.
Of course, and so that obviously your logo and branding reflect like your values and mission behind the business.
Yeah.
Do you think being based in Moray changes the kind of branding work that you do compared to when you did it in London?
Yes. When I was in London, I worked with really big corporate clients, and I don't currently work with any of the really big corporate clients here because I guess I worked for a bigger agency and it was their brand that was attracting the attention. But you're a cog in a machine in London, and I think it would be very hard to start my kind of business in London because there's so much noise, there's so much competition, there are so many costs involved. I think it's much easier. I think there's a lot of opportunity up here in Moray, and I think it's much easier to start a small business somewhere like Moray, where it's a village and people know people and people make recommendations, even if they've never worked with you, like you just mentioned. And people have a sense of community and want to support and connect each other. So I think it is easier to do that up here. In the last couple of years, I've started to work with larger businesses in the area, not the mega brands, but the kind of SMEs that are sizable, maybe with 50 staff or so, have started to come to my door. And that's taken me since, I guess, 2018, so sort of 7 years. 7 years.
Crazy to think 2018 was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Taken me 6 or 7 years to get to the point where I am getting the attention of those businesses. So this year I've been working on a merger between two large businesses in the north, and that work is about to be launched to the world in January or February next year, just when we're ready. And that was a year-long project of bringing those businesses' brands together and getting people on board and really creating that new experience for the employees. And that's my dream kind of work. that's the kind of thing that I really thrive on and can add most value to a business, because we've done everything from starting with that blank canvas and imagining the future and writing the strategy, taking that into what the image will look like, working with really great graphic designers and web designers, and then developing the experience and taking the staff on that journey as well, so that they feel communicated to and connected. So
makes sense. Yeah. So just while we're on the topic of attention and clients, when you first started up here in Murray, how did you find your clients? Was it mostly through networking, or did you use like online channels like social media, that sort of thing?
Yeah. So it was a bit of a mix, to be honest, Archie. And I think that there is a phrase in marketing that's, what's your integrated on and offline marketing strategy?
Yeah.
And really, the reality is that you do have to do a bit of both, in simple terms. But most of the business came from the in-person stuff, not the online stuff. People use your online presence to check you out and to evaluate whether they trust your business.
So is it more like they might have met you in person and then they'll go and Google you and see what you're all about, and then your social media is kind of that, I don't know what you would call it, social proof kind of idea?
It's building that trust and credibility that you do know what you're talking about because you've done it for yourself, or that you've got examples of clients, or that you've got reviews and testimonials from other people, because people will believe literally anyone else apart from you that you're good at what you do.
That's exactly it. I said it, I think I said it twice in the last podcast. It is absolutely so true. People will believe literally anyone other than you. So get reviews, ask for reviews, get people to recommend you, because people will. Yeah. You know, why would they believe you? Of course it's going to be a biased opinion. Yeah.
But I guess I don't really think of social media and that kind of thing as my marketing. My marketing strategy says the word networking on it. Just that's it. Networking.
Networking. So just very quickly, people often go to networking events and maybe it's their first networking event. What would you tell them to do at a networking event to actually get something from it? Because I think some people go in with a mindset, I need to sell as much as I can on the day. Some people go in with a mindset that they're not going to sell anything at all. So what would you tell them? Yeah.
So just to pick up on that phrase you said, what should they do to get something from it? Stop thinking about getting something from it. Is lesson number one. So networking is about building your community of people that know you. And how networking really works is just to make a lot of friends. You know, I'm in circle networks that I've been telling you about, and their tagline, it's a really good one, is friendship fuels business.
Friendship fuels business.
Yeah.
I like
that. So go with the mindset of trying to connect with people, trying to get to know those people. Go ready with questions to ask people, and look to make genuine relationships with people. Do not think about selling at that moment, and do not think about your business and what it can get out of it. Go with a giving mindset. I wanted to tell you about a book called The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. Have you heard of it before? Check it out. So it's a really short read. It's only like 100 pages and it's a business book. And it's all about that go-giving mindset. So always thinking, not just at a networking event, but in life, how can you help? How can you help people? How can you do something for someone else? And that will really serve you well. And it's a great growth strategy. And that's what I've been implementing in my business. I do so much free work. And the more free work I do, the more paid work I get. Yeah. And I don't have to ask for the paid work.
I see that all the time amongst a lot of the like really elite people, like Alex Hormozy, for example. You know, they're doing probably 8% of their stuff is free. And then that drives 20% of the rest of the sales.
You would never have to pay me, because everything that I can teach you, I put out somewhere in the world. So whether that's on LinkedIn or on my website, in my free Facebook community, and you know, in my Instagram posts, I'm always telling people the answers all the time. And so I'm quite happy. And if you call me up and ask me, I'll tell you the answer. I won't charge you for that information. I'm very happy to share what I know and to help you with the problem you're looking to solve. And ultimately, if you value my advice and it's helped you and it's helped your business grow, maybe you'll refer me to someone else, or maybe one day you'll want to work with me. But I want you to feel ready to do that. I don't want you to feel that I tried to extract money from you first.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it works different for different businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I do in the web design space, it's very different as to, you know, the value I could potentially provide up front. But I am obviously working on it with things like this, the podcast, for example.
Yeah.
People like listening to it and they get insights on how to start, build and grow their business.
Yeah. With a website, it's a tangible thing, and people understand that exchange of money for a thing that they're getting back. The issue when you're a consultant is that people don't necessarily put the same price tag on your words and your advice. And sometimes all I'm selling is time and my opinion, and it might not even be a textbook opinion. Where that value comes from is the 25 year. I'm old enough to be your granny, Archie. and that 25 years experience I've got working. I mean, you're only 18 years old, right?
Yeah.
And I've been working in this field for 25 years. And I didn't start until I was in my 20s. So I've got all that knowledge and experience. And I've worked with so many different businesses. I've encountered so many problems. I've built so many great brands that there's not a lot that I can't answer. I rarely come across a question that I can't answer. But I guess it's conveying that to people and how you package things as a consultant. And so you do have to come up with products. Daniel Priestley, who I'm sure you're familiar with his work, he's got Key Person of Influence, and he talks about building your products and services around you so that people can actually understand what it is that they can buy from you as well. So
you're absolutely right though, like in terms of selling a website, it's a tangible asset. You know, once the invoice is paid for the website, they've got this thing. All very well, it might be digital, but they're still getting an asset of some sort. Whereas when they're working with you, they're not necessarily going to see a return on their investment within, you know, the first day of working with you, for example. And it's about that long-term sort of growth. Moving on from that topic, you're the president of the Association of Scottish Businesswomen.
I am.
What made you want to take that on, and what's been the hardest part about leading other leaders within that?
The day that I was asked to be the president of the Association of Scottish Businesswomen, I felt sick. I had the cold sweats and the fear that overtook me. I literally was shaking to the core, and I thought, I can't do that. It's too big. It's a national role, and why on earth are they asking me? And every bone in my body was saying no to that opportunity. I did not want to do it. There was a slight snag though, because I'm very good at taking my own advice, and I have a strategy, and every year I write a letter to myself and I set goals and that kind of thing. And the letter to myself spans 3 years actually. And in my letter to myself, I'd written that in 2028 I wanted to be the president of the Association of Scottish Businesswomen.
Wow.
Yeah.
2028.
2028.
And it's now 2020. Was it 2025 when you got the role?
Yeah, in January. Yeah.
January this
well,
year.
I was asked in January. Yeah. And so it was 3 years early. I'd just written that letter. I had literally just written the letter that
That's
said
amazing.
that I wanted that role. So I kind of manifested it, if you like. But so why did I want it? I guess I'm a super connector. I absolutely love connecting people, and I can see the value that I add to other people's businesses by connecting them with people they didn't know before, people they can approach. I love seeing the relationships that develop between other people when that happens, when I put them together, and I just love lighting that blue touch paper and seeing all these relationships form and businesses grow. And I'd been the president of Murray Businesswomen and really enjoyed that role. And something happened in me that year. It was like when I started cleaning fairies. And someone had lit a blue touch paper under me and this fire within my belly. And I was, just lighting up, facing this challenge to do something good. And so that's why I wrote it in my letter, because I knew that would be the next step.
So what is that? You write a letter to yourself every year?
Yeah. So it's part of brand strategy, I guess, and goal setting. So the fancy word or the business word for it is vision. Yeah. I find that people get mixed up between mission and vision, and the Americans actually say that a different way around to the Brits. And I always forget. I'm 51, I haven't got a good memory. And so I'm always like, is it mission or vision? If I can't remember, and I'm a branding consultant, I talk about it all the time. So I scrap those words and I talk about your big goal. I actually talk these days about your big goals and your small goals. And so your big goals are at least 30 years away. For you, Archie, probably 50 years away, because I want you to imagine your business beyond you being the business, or, you being an integral part of the business. What does that business look like? And that's what can really drive you forward if you have that vision far in the future. So then the small goals, the way to think about those is to do it reflectively. So you've already achieved them. And this is where the letter to yourself comes in. So I get my clients to write a letter to themselves from future them. So they're not the author of the letter. So it was me in 2028 writing, going, hey, Ailsa, you've done it. It's all really good. Yeah. Guess what? Now you're the president of the Association of Scottish Businesswomen. And, this is what the next step is, and so on and so forth. And you write it as though it's already happened.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Do you read it every year?
Yeah, a few times a year. Yeah. In fact, mine is pinned on my office wall.
Is it? So it's almost like reviewing your goals, but in a different way to just, my goal is to be the president of Scottish Businesswomen. It's almost like manifesting that in a way.
But telling yourself, crucially, how that will make you feel. Because we're not really driven by goals. We're driven by emotion. And we want those feelings to make us, to validate us and make us feel like we're doing what we should be doing, or that we're successful, or whatever it is that you want. So the feelings are the important part there. So I'd written it in my letter. And so when the outgoing president emailed me and said, I would like it to be you stepping into the role, I literally felt sick. However, I had a word with myself. I put my big girl pants on and said, this is your goal. You've written it down. You cannot say no to the things that are your goals just because they come early. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? No friend would tell me that, don't go for that, because that's your goal. And the confidence for something doesn't come from not doing it and worrying about it and pushing it to the side. It comes from doing it, stepping into the role. And so I kept telling myself that, remind myself it would be okay, the confidence would come. And I took over as president at the end of June, and I'm absolutely loving it. So we just had the conference last week, and it was a great success. I've had loads of feedback, and, on to the next thing now, and really, really enjoying the role.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. You're clearly someone who thrives on being busy. I mean, you've got B is for brand, you've got 2 full-time, part-time staff within that?
Part-time.
Part-time staff.
3, actually, but yeah.
3?
Yeah.
3. Then you've got, I believe, horses, dogs, kids.
Yeah.
President of Association of Scottish Businesswomen. You've got so many things going on. Yeah. How do you stop that turning into burnout?
How do I stop myself from burning out? It's the 4% rule. Have you heard of the 4% rule? Okay, so 4% is 1 hour. 4% of the day is 1 hour. Okay, if you divide it up. And so if you can spend 1 hour a day focusing on your priorities, you will move things forward. And the other 96% can get done or not get done. It doesn't matter. But if you can work out what your top priorities are and spend 1 hour moving them forward every day, your business will grow and you will move forward. And you can actually apply that to other parts of your life as well. So work out what your 4% is that you need to get done in all aspects of your life and do those things. And then other stuff can wait. And don't give yourself a hard time. Don't should yourself. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have managed to do that. Oh, I should have been there for them. I should have blah, blah, blah. Because it's not helpful language and it just makes you feel stressed. So stop shooting yourself. And then the other thing is to let go of the idea of balance. It doesn't exist if you're a small business owner.
Any business owner, I think balance is not a thing.
Yeah. So I prefer the word harmony. And I can't remember who the guest was, but I stole this from one of Stephen Bartlett, Diary of CEO's guests. And I thought, I love this. And it became my new philosophy. But the idea of harmony rather than balance. So if everything's in harmony, then you should feel good and everyone around you will feel good. It doesn't matter if you're spending enough time, whatever that is, doing the things with them or with the animals or parents or work or whatever. It's about finding that harmony where they maybe know they have to wait because they can see you're doing something else, you communicate really well, and that you kind of use that sort of sound wave, I suppose. If we imagine it's a bit of a symphony, and life is a symphony, and sometimes it's louder, softer, different notes going on, and it's all pieced together like that, and then it's not so chaotic, I suppose. Yeah.
That makes sense. Just quickly, since coming up here to Murray from London, what's been the biggest reality check or the biggest change that you've noticed in your life? Not in your life, in the way you run your business.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have a business in London, and I think the biggest change has been to be able to have a business. I think if I'd stayed in London, I wouldn't be a business owner.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would be in a corporate career. I'd be on that gravy train. I was commuting. I did not love commuting. I didn't live in London. I lived in Oxfordshire.
So you had to commute
2.5 hours each way every day. 2.5 hours each way.
5 hours each day.
5 hours a day commuting. So
Wow.
I was up at 4:30 and then on the train by about 6 and then into London for 8:30.
That's
and
crazy.
Then leaving my desk at about 7:30 at night.
How do you even know what that is?
I don't know what it is either, but my teenagers keep talking about it. I think it's just supposed to make you laugh. So
Well, it worked.
So yeah, leaving the office about then and travelling home and maybe back 9-10 at night. So it wasn't a family life, and it wasn't a sustainable long-term life. It was exhausting. And I was a cog in a machine. And now I wouldn't say people look for freedom and flexibility from self-employment. No, you don't necessarily get those things. Don't start a business if what you want is freedom and flexibility. Because if you're passionate about your business, actually you become quite much more hardworking than you were.
Yeah.
And you're very responsible for your business and the outcomes. And so in many ways, it's not freedom and flexibility at all, but it is autonomy. They're your decisions. It's yours. It's your baby. And so I am so passionate about work. I mean, I love working. I'm getting old now though, Archie, and I love working, and I can't imagine stopping working. A lot of my friends who are in jobs talk about retirement now. I've got their retirement goal in mind. They're planning for that. They want to finish a bit early or, this kind of thing because they're working for someone else. I'm just getting started.
Quite right. Quite right. I think I've forgotten what I was going to say now. It's because you said that 6-7 thing.
Yeah. Sorry.
A lot of people will tend to be working in a job and then they'll be like, I want to go self-employed because it's
Mm-hmm.
going to give me, that freedom, that flexibility.
Yeah.
But in reality, they just end up making a harder job for themselves that
Yeah.
requires more hours,
Yeah.
less pay,
Yeah.
far more stress.
Yeah.
So if you're going to
That's
start
it.
a business, you need to either be passionate about it or have
Mm-hmm.
specific goals in mind that you want to achieve
Yeah.
with the business
Yeah.
over a period of time.
I think if you're going to start a business, you need to be prepared to grow at least a little bit and outsource things and make a team environment of it. Otherwise, like you said, you just made yourself a prison, really.
Pretty much. You're just
Yeah.
causing
Yeah.
issues for yourself and creating a life that really you don't want to live, and you didn't get into it for that.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And you need to be strong. You need to be really strong because it's tough. And certainly not every day is a bed of roses.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be resilient so that you can overcome challenges. And there will be challenges. And I had my keynote speaker for the conference last week has grown a really big business. She's in the clothing industry, and Taylor Swift wore one of her dresses.
Wow.
And that really springboarded her business. And we were chatting when we were preparing for the conference, and we were talking about business problems. And she said, I wish I had the problems I had when my business was small. She's like, careful what you wish for, because as your business grows, the problems grow as well. So you need to be strong and confident. But one of the downsides is, as a woman, a lot of people don't like a strong, confident woman. It's quite off-putting. So yeah.
I'm not agreeing with that, by the way. I'm just
You were.
agreeing. No, I wasn't.
People don't like directness. I mean, you said to me, well, you're quite direct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell it like it is. And people don't necessarily value that. They don't necessarily like that quality. But I'm okay with that.
I think it's a good quality to have, to be direct and to the point. There's no point in, especially in your industry as a consultant,
Yeah.
there's no point in beating around the bush. You may
Yeah.
as well just be honest and upfront with people and direct. And
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah, I'm okay with people liking me and people not liking me. I was born a people pleaser, but a long time ago I stopped trying to be
That's
a people
it.
pleaser. And not everyone's going to be in your tribe, right? There's 8.9 billion people in the world. They're not all going to like you.
So even if only 1% of them like you, that's still 100 million people that like you.
Yeah.
Something like that. I heard the maths
Yeah,
ages
yeah.
ago, and that's crazy to think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, that's the root of branding. It's all about finding your tribe, your
Mhm.
people. And in fact, my LinkedIn post yesterday, did I send that to you?
I think you did. Yeah.
was kind of about this, because the debate at the moment is about the John Lewis
Yeah.
Christmas advert. And that's why I think it's a masterclass in branding, because they have targeted a specific audience.
I've not actually seen the advert yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'll need to watch it.
check it out. Yeah.
But I think that's branding as well. You'll probably agree with this, is that when you're doing any form of marketing, you can't appeal to everyone.
No.
You need to appeal to a very specific group, and the rest of the group should. It's almost like one group should love what you say and one group should hate what you say.
Yeah.
Because that creates that controversy.
There's a saying. So when you speak to everyone, no one hears you. When you talk to someone, everyone listens.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
when
I
you're
like that.
clear and specific in what you say and you talk to one audience, then everyone actually can hear what your message is. And even if you're not talking to them, they will make their own mind up. They might think, oh, actually, if Archie makes websites for consultants, I wonder if he'll also make a website for me, and I'm a yoga instructor or whatever, and I don't count myself as a consultant, and he was talking to consultants. Or, if Archie makes websites for tech companies, well, actually, I've got an engineering company. I wonder if he can also do mine.
The riches are in the niches.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. What we're going to do now, Ailsa, is we're going to go on to the quickfire round. So
Oh,
I'm going to
gosh.
ask you, I think we've got, how many have we got? 6 or 7 questions here.
6, 7.
Not again. And we'll keep it fairly short and sweet. First one, if B is for brand, wasn't about branding, what would the B stand for?
Busting a gut. B for busting.
Busting a gut.
Busting a gut. It's one of our values.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think whatever you do in life, you should give it your all.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
If you could rebrand any company in Scotland, who would it be and why?
Can I have more than one?
Is it that bad?
No. Well, I actually have been getting to work with my dream clients lately. So the company that I referred to earlier that I've been working with was a dream client. They were on my dream board. I have a dream board as well as a letter.
Great.
And so, they're a renewable energy company. And so that was a really exciting project to work on. I've actually got my eye on a drinks industry company now. And I'm not going to say the brand because I'm still just in the early stages of that relationship with them. But I do have a drinks industry company in mind for a project for 2026. So... yeah.
Amazing.
A big one.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing it. What's one word to describe what branding means to you?
Clarity.
Clarity.
That is it. Yeah.
Achieve brand clarity.
Yeah. I think when you're clear on your brand, when you got your strategy, everything else, you save time, effort, and money. It is just so much easier to build your business, to build your brand, to grow your business. So clarity, get clarity at the heart of everything.
What's one branding myth that needs to die?
That you can do it yourself is probably the top one. That is absolutely it. You've got to spend money.
So branding
on
is not a DIY job?
It is not a DIY job. Yeah, that is a branding. But there is one more actually that's really important. The thing that I hate to see out there is the worst advice I actually see in LinkedIn land and places like that is be the brand. You are the brand. I absolutely hate when people say that. You are not the brand. You may build a personal brand. That's a choice. You can build a personal brand. But even if you're a sole trader, your business is still your business. Treat it like that. Treat it as a separate entity to you. Because your business does not go to Tesco, does not walk the dog, doesn't go to the gym, doesn't have a holiday. It's a business.
Yeah.
Build a brand around that, and then you've got an asset that you can sell. You are you. You want some time off. And as a sole trader or business owner, you've got a choice. Do you want to be part of that? Do you want to put yourself forward and build a personal brand for you and become your business's best brand ambassador? But you don't have to do that. You can just have a business brand.
And my last question on the quickfire round, Ailsa, is what is one piece of advice you'd give to someone trying to stand out in a small town like Murray? That we're in, well, Murray's an area, not a town, but you get the point.
Murray's a village. Well, actually...
Murray is a village?
Scotland's a village.
Scotland's a village.
It's one of my favourite sayings. Scotland is a village. So play your role in that village community. Yeah. Don't gossip about people. Be kind. That is really important. Look to lift other people up. Look for opportunities to help other people. That's the right way to build your network. It's not just about showing up at meetings. And you do not know who knows who. I can't tell you the connections I've got. I'm saying Scotland's a village. The UK also is a village. And I feel so connected to people way outside of Murray. And so if you're just getting started, remember that your local community, that's a village, it's a community, people will refer you. And then as you step outside of there, the same is true. People know people.
They certainly do.
Yeah.
They certainly do. Ailsa, thank you for joining me on the show today. I think people are going to take a lot from this, especially around how branding ties back to real business. If you're listening and you're from the north of Scotland and you've built something from nothing, big or small, you can apply to be the next guest at nightingweb.com/podcast. And of course, you can check out Beers for Brand and Ailsa in the show notes below. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a follow and share the Start, Build and Grow podcast with someone else building their own thing. We'll be back soon with another local story about what it really takes to build something that lasts. Sweet.
Thanks.